Thank you so much for all your feedback on our previous video, Why Taxing the Rich is Destroying the Economy. We knew it would spark some debate, and we've seen a lot of passionate and, yes, negative comments on the topic. Honestly, I used to feel the same way as many of you. I really did. I shared a lot of the same views and concerns you've raised in the comments. But I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce a story that completely changed my perspective on the matter, and I hope it gives you something to think about too. The tale of 10 friends and their weekly pub night. Once upon a time, in a cozy little town, there were 10 friends who loved to gather every Friday night at their favorite pub. It was their ritual: good company, cold beer, and lots of laughs. Every week, the same bartender, Greg, would bring them a bill of $100 for their drinks. Now, these 10 friends weren't all equally wealthy. Some had modest jobs, while others were doing quite well for themselves. So, they had come up with a fair way to split the bill based on what each of them could afford, much like how taxes work in the real world. 5 of the friends were struggling financially and couldn't really contribute, so they didn't pay anything at all. The 6th friend, who was getting by, paid just $1. The 7th friend, who earned a little more, paid $3. The 8th, who was better off, paid $7. The 9th, who had a good job, contributed $12. And the wealthiest friend of the group, who was very successful, covered the largest share, paying $59. Everyone was content with this arrangement. The wealthiest friend understood that, since he earned the most, it made sense for him to pay the most. The others appreciated that they could still come to the pub without stretching themselves too thin. And so the friends enjoyed their weekly gathering, with each paying their fair share, based on their means. A generous surprise. One evening, just as the friends were about to settle their usual $100 bill, Greg the bartender came over with a big smile. "Tonight's your lucky night," he announced. "I'm giving you all a $20 discount, so your total is only $80. The friends cheered and thanked Greg, but then they faced a dilemma. How should they split the discount? Since they were used to paying in different amounts based on what they could afford, they decided it would only be fair to divide the discount the same way. The first 5 friends, who hadn't been paying anything to begin with, continued to pay nothing. The 6th friend, who had been paying $1, now didn't have to pay at all. The 7th friend, who used to pay $3, now only had to pay $2. The 8th friend's share dropped from $7 to $5, while the 9th friend saw his payment fall from $12 to $9. And the richest friend, who had been paying $59, now only had to pay $52. Everyone had saved some money, but the richest friend saved the most, $7, while the others saw smaller savings between $1 and $3. Trouble brewing. At first, everyone seemed happy with their savings, but as they sat there finishing their drinks, the 6th friend started to frown. He looked over at the wealthiest friend and said, "Hold on a minute. I only saved $1, but you saved $7. That doesn't seem fair." The 7th friend nodded in agreement. "Yeah, why should you get the biggest discount when you already have more money than the rest of us?" Soon, the other friends started to grumble too. They were frustrated that the wealthiest friend, despite paying the most, also got the biggest cut from the discount. "It's not fair," they muttered, feeling that somehow the system was working in the rich friend's favor. The wealthiest friend, hearing all this, sighed and shook his head. "Look," he said, "I paid the most to begin with. Of course I saved more, because I was covering most of the bill. Without me, you'd all be paying a lot more every week." But the complaints continued, and the wealthiest friend, feeling unappreciated, finally said, "Maybe you don't need me at all then. Maybe I won't come to the pub anymore." With that, he stood up and left, leaving the remaining 9 friends in awkward silence. The next Friday. The following Friday, the 9 remaining friends gathered at the pub as usual. They ordered their drinks, laughed, and tried to carry on as if nothing had changed. But when the bill came, it was still $100, just like every other week. Except this time, the richest friend wasn't there to cover most of the cost. The remaining friends had to figure out how to split the bill without him. Suddenly, things weren't as easy as before. The first 5 friends still couldn't afford to pay anything, but now, the 6th friend, who used to only pay $1, had to contribute $3. The 7th friend, who used to pay $3, now had to fork over $7. The 8th friend's share jumped to $12, and the 9th friend, who had been paying $12, now found himself paying $22. The group quickly realized that without their wealthiest friend contributing the bulk of the money, they all had to pay more, much more than they were used to. It wasn't long before they regretted how they had treated their wealthiest friend the week before. Without him, their weekly pub night was no longer so affordable or fun. The moral of the story. This story, like many, has a lesson to teach. In a society, much like in the pub, the wealthiest individuals often pay the largest share of taxes because they can afford it. When there are tax cuts or discounts, they might benefit the most in dollar terms because they contribute the most to begin with. But if those wealthiest individuals feel unappreciated or decide to leave, perhaps by moving their wealth elsewhere or avoiding taxes, it can leave the rest of society to pick up the slack. In the end, the friends learned that a balance is needed. While it's important for everyone to contribute fairly, it's also essential to appreciate the larger role some people play. Without mutual understanding and fairness, even the best arrangements can fall apart. And so, the friends left the pub that night with a new perspective on fairness, responsibility, and the delicate balance that keeps things running smoothly in both pubs and societies. If you enjoyed this story and found it helpful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Feel free to leave a comment with your thoughts or any questions you have. We'd love to hear from you. And if you think others might enjoy this story too, please share it with your friends. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.